Jon Lovett.
Damn Pfeiffer.
We cannot quit Jeffrey Epstein. Or at least Donald Trump can't quit Jeffrey Epstein because no matter where he goes, no matter what he does, he can't stop talking about him. He was flying home from a very productive trip in Europe where he got to cut the ribbon on a new golf course that he just happens to own. And he was asked some questions about how his friendship, his long friendship with Jeffrey Epstein came to an end. Here's what Trump had to say.
People were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, does that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her.
This seems to me to be a quite significant admission on Trump's part. Can you explain why people think this is such a big deal?
There's been a lot of MAGA safe theories as to why Trump and Epstein had a falling out, if they ever did, in fact, have a falling out. And for a while, the story was something like he didn't like the way Jeffrey Epstein treated women, and so he kicked him out of the club. Then Trump is asked, its days are melding into each other, this may be Monday or over the weekend, this question, and he said that it was because Jeffrey Epstein had been poaching people that worked at Mar-a-Lago. Which is, why did you have a falling out with the world infamous sex trafficker and abuser? It's like, over an HR matter, over hiring policy. But what we know is Virginia Giuffre works at Mar-a-Lago, works at this spa, leaves to go work for Jeffrey Epstein, reports all kinds of horrible things happening to her. Donald Trump is in this time praising Jeffrey Epstein, and then later has a falling out.
That is correct. So my understanding of this is it was in the year 2000 that she left Mar-a-Lago to go work with Jeffrey Epstein. We know a lot about her story because she eventually sued Epstein and Maxwell and actually had a settlement, I believe, with Maxwell. And very sadly committed suicide earlier this year living in Australia. But she was working in the spa. She was 16 or 17 years old at the time. She left to work for Jeffrey Epstein. She then alleges that she was taken to London by Epstein and Maxwell and sex trafficked to Prince Andrew. That's her allegation, right? That was eventually settled in court, but there was no finding of fact there. 2 years later, after this happens, Trump is quoted in New York Magazine saying, Jeffrey Epstein's a pal of mine, and he likes beautiful ladies as much as I do, especially, and one's on the young side. There are also other alleged young women who were hired out of the spa by Epstein at this time. And then in 2004, their friendship reportedly comes to an end, or at least they stop. There's no more evidence of them hanging out together. The New York Times has reported, although I've not seen this otherwhere, that the primary reason for that falling out was certainly not what the White House claims is that he thought he was a creep and kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. What the White House, the New York Times' understanding is that it's based on a competition over a real estate acquisition in Palm Beach, which is the most classic reason for Trump to end a friendship with someone.
There's no evidence that this story is true, right? That Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump had a falling out when he is claiming they had this falling out, for the reasons they're saying. This is an awful story that the right has turned into a cudgel for years because it was a conspiracy theory they thought could tag Democrats as pedophiles and as part of a vast global network of creeps. But this was a real person who worked at Mar-a-Lago and then was ensnared in Jeffrey Epstein's net, and whose life was ruined and wrecked by the abuse that she suffered, who ultimately took her own life. And now because she is dead, right, Trump can now make all kinds of claims without any ability to verify them.
I think what Trump said here is, I think, quite a big deal because he's a moron, stumbled into basically admitting that he knew that Epstein was poaching young women from his spa. before, like while he was still friends with him, and and then would go on years later to praise him. And so the question, so we have all kinds of questions about Trump, right? He's in the Epstein files. To what extent is he in the Epstein files? What did he know about what Epstein was doing at the time? The New York Magazine quote about young women, the poaching of young women from his spa, all suggest that he had at least some knowledge of what Epstein was doing and continued his friendship with him for years later, despite that, right? We know about all kinds of creepy situations they had with women, including the very strange time where Trump invited the troupe of calendar girls to come for a party at Mar-a-Lago, and the only two attendees were Trump and Epstein. We know there are other allegations about Trump with Epstein's girlfriend at the time.
Visiting him in New York.
Yeah.
Trump saying he likes whatever the exact quote is, but liking them on the younger side, right? Like maybe it is because he was aware of this young woman being poached from his spa, whatever the details may be. Maybe it's about that. Maybe it's just because of his other many experiences related to Jeffrey Epstein. It had nothing to do with this specific instance. Like, we have no idea. But what is clear is Donald Trump was aware that Jeffrey Epstein liked young women or girls. It was cute. It was funny. He was willing to sign jokey letters about it, implying that there's some kind of secret, or that because they have everything, there's only one other thing, right? Wonder what that could be, where he's drawing a picture of a naked woman. So like whatever the exact reference he's making, whatever his recollections of this, he was completely aware of the kind of person Jeffrey Epstein was, and was for years, and was praising him long after he knew that.
Which makes him part of the conspiracy of elites protecting Jeffrey Epstein that has been the core of the conspiracy theory
Right.
that he and his allies have pushed. So we're now in week 3 of Epstein, which is maybe the longest that any story about Trump has stayed in the news, I guess with the exception of maybe January 6th. And I think a question for all of us has been, like, we know people inside the political media bubble have been talking about it a lot. We've been talking about it all the time. It is a fascination of the press, but is it breaking through to those people who don't traffic in political news every day? Like, is it getting to those people? We've seen polling showing that people are paying attention, but you sort of need examples of it breaking out the political news bubble. There are 2 examples of the last few days that show that it may be just doing that. Let's take a listen.
Epstein stuff is so crazy because when Kash Patel was on here and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work. Because there's nothing I can. The guy's saying there's no tapes, there's no video. That doesn't make any sense. Everyone knows it doesn't make any sense. The whole thing was nuts. And then he's like, well, we have a film. We're going to release that film. And the film has a fucking minute missing from it.
Yeah.
Like, do you think we're babies? Like, what is this?
I'm not a conspiracy guy by
you
nature.
are today.
But I am today. Today, I'm fully on board with this shit.
Everybody's in today.
Yeah, Dan, we're all conspiracy theorists now.
I'm telling you, I've spent my life saying not a conspiracy theorist, and I am swimming in red string these days. That first clip we saw was the band, the Dropkick Murphys, playing their song First Class Loser at a concert in Long Beach. Behind them, as you saw, was all kinds of footage of Epstein and Trump. You may know the Dropkick Murphys as being a very, very famous band from Boston that probably played Tommy's prom. So,
Sure. Yeah. No, that was the mobile over Tommy's crib as a baby played those songs, which is cool. Yes, it is, of course, true now that the Epstein story has broken through. Lots of polling has been coming out showing that Americans believe that Donald Trump is hiding information from the public, and that he may be involved in the Epstein scandal. But more than that, I feel like there's something. It's not just that this story has broken from politics into non-political arenas. It's actually that it broke from non-political arenas into politics and is now popping back out the other side, right? Like, this was a roiling story that wasn't getting a lot of political attention, which helped feed it as a conspiracy theory among a lot of people that believe that there was some kind of a cover-up. And then Donald Trump becomes president, promises to end that cover-up, ultimately creates a new and far more real cover up about it, right? So he brought it into politics, and then it spilled back out sort of into the country. And that to me is partly why it has lasted so long. This is the kind of scandal that Republicans drum up against Democrats, right? There's more information. You're keeping something from us. There's a secret, right? That's what Benghazi ultimately was. It was, there's something more you're not telling us. This is a scandal. There is secrets. And it kind of feeds into the media narrative about like digging and finding and hunting. And there's nothing you can ever give, nothing you can ever provide to like sate that request. But now Donald Trump has created that desire on the part of his base and now the country. And forget being unable to state it, he's refusing to release the vast amount of information that they're sitting on. And we are now learning that Pam Bondi has FBI agents working in fucking shifts, looking through the files to find people's names, putting that in an online, basically a Google Doc, right? Basically, whether there was an Epstein list before Donald Trump was president, there is absolutely one now.
Yeah. It is wild how poorly Trump has handled this, just from like a pure basic PR perspective. He has highlighted the fact that this is a cover up. He's basically like wearing a t-shirt that says "I'm covering up a crime" like at all times. And because every day he like doubles and triples down. He can't get his facts straight. He thinks and it's part because he thinks he has the power to like make these things go away. Right. So he tried this with the Obama treason thing. There's data out today from Kyle Tharp's newsletter. He's a digital strategist that shows that the attention on the Obama stuff has gone way down, even on the right. It hasn't worked. Every time he speaks, he basically steps in something that opens up more questions, right? Because he will not give the information up. And it is like there is a playbook for how you handle scandals like this, and Trump is doing the opposite of what it says the whole time.
When Bill Clinton was president, and there were all these investigations, they had an advantage, which I don't think we realized was an advantage. I'm actually pointing to a political advantage to norms that we didn't necessarily appreciate. And what it was is you could say the Justice Department's looking into it, right? And you could throw it to a spokesperson over there. And while people believe there was political interference and there's been conspiracy theories about this forever, and no Justice Department is completely independent, et cetera, people had a sense that the Justice Department was independent from the White House. It was a different power center. And so when it was moved over to the Justice Department, it became less a political question and more a legal question. Everybody knows that Pam Bondi is Donald Trump's lawyer, to her great disgrace, to the shame of our country. It's a huge fucking crisis and catastrophe, but it's a huge problem for Donald Trump too, because nobody believes she's independent. No one believes she has integrity. And therefore, anytime a question is thrown to her about the Epstein files, it's not a legal question. It's a political question. And because she's an ally of Donald Trump, she cannot take this story and tamp it down and say prosecutors are looking into it. Todd Blanche going to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell for 2 days doesn't make the story better for them. It makes it worse.
Yes.
And so they do not have the ability to solve it because they have politicized the Justice Department. And it's a rare example where actually following a norm was something that made politics a little bit easier as opposed to harder for those that abided by it. And I found that to be, I'm surprised by that.
Okay, one last thing here. Deadline reports, believe it or not.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Yeah, sure.
Deadline reports that Donald Trump is considering a pardon for Sean Diddy Combs before Diddy's sentencing in a couple months. Surprised? Shocked?
Nothing surprises me at this point. He's always considering pardons for everybody. I don't. It's obviously like disgusting and unjustified, and it's this strange phenomenon where, like, again, the Epstein story is about horrific abuse of girls and young women. That's what this is a story about. It's about like sexual abuse, and for whatever reason, that's the only sexual abuse they seem to care about, right? Donald Trump gets away with harassing and assaulting women. He's adjudicated to have been guilty of sexual abuse, though ultimately ABC paid him $16 million because George Stephanopoulos referred to it as rape, even though the judge himself said, well, legally that's not what we can call it. It meets it basically meets the terms. These are terrible crimes, right? Like, why do they don't? It's so strange where they count and where they don't count. But I mean, look, who knows what he's going to do? But I find it I don't even understand why it's something they would be considering. What do you think?
Well, I think Trump generally likes to pardon powerful people, and he likes to. He thinks it's very clever if he pardons Democrats sometimes, like Eric Adams, who he didn't pardon but he let off, or Rod Blagojevich, to show that he is. I think he thinks it's winning over voters. Now, this would be a truly insane thing to do in the context of the Epstein conspiracy, because the everything that went down with Sean Diddy Combs is a proof point among the Epstein conspiracy theorists for the idea that there truly could be this cabal of elites covering up sex trafficking, sex abuse, pedophilia, because here you have this very famous person in Diddy who was having these parties that lots of people attended. How could no one have known what was going on and it didn't come out till the very end? Same thing was true with Weinstein. We've seen this before. So for Trump to do this would put a massive target, would make all of his problems worse. I would say just Megyn Kelly, who tweeted this today, and I think it really just shows how absolutely normalized Trump has made the corruption of the pardon process. Megyn Kelly tweeted, "Trump should not pardon Diddy. He doesn't deserve it. He's a Trump hater. He's a woman abuser. MAGA is already upset over elites seeming to cover for each other. This would not help. GOP struggling with young female voters, most of whom will hate a Diddy pardon." It's just incredibly notable that her first reason
I saw it too,
is that he's a Trump hater.
It's that he's a Trump hater. And I look, the generous interpretation of that is not that Megyn Kelly thinks that's a reason not to pardon someone.
She thinks
that she knows Donald Trump. It's that they all know who Donald Trump is.
Yeah,
she knows
that
right. Donald Trump has corrupted the pardon power completely. And so she's trying to make an argument that would resonate with him, not because she cares that Diddy is a Trump hater, but because she doesn't want him pardoned for the other reasons and knows that's the only thing Donald Trump cares about, which is just fucking sick.
Yeah. It's a great country we have. Okay, Love it. I think it's enough for today. Before everyone goes, I'm going to make a very important plea here. Just take your cursor and smash the subscribe button. It is incredibly important because the number of subscribers that we have and that progressive media outlets have determines what people see when they open up YouTube. Are they going to see conservative, Ben Shapiro-like content, Steve Bannon, MAGA content, Charlie Kirk, or that? Or are they going to see Pod Save America or any of those things like that? Like, we want people, we're losing information more. We need people to see more progressive content when they open up YouTube. The best way to do that is to smash the subscribe button, to hit it right now. It is absolutely free. It just takes one click, so please do it.